Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time coming across one of my videos. And I'm the mature exotical lady. And lying, guys. I mean, I touched on this briefly in my I Love England video. For those of you who are coming across my video for the first time, I did a video on I Love England, and I briefly touched on Boris Johnson and the fact that, you know, he's found to have told lies in an inquiry around COVID-19, pandemic. Anyway, I just want to sort of talk about the consequences, really, of lying. And to say, I mean, I said in that video, we all lie, don't we? I mean, we all tell lies, but there's lies and there is lies, unfortunately. That is the truth. We don't like to colour our lies, you know, but I mean, basically what this boils down to is I had a 2-day inquest which ended today. An inquest, for those of you who don't know, is where somebody, a member of the public, dies, and they die in circumstances where they're not in a hospital setting. They're either in their own home, could be in a police station, could be in a care home, could be in supported living, could be on the street, right? And the coroner, before a sort of formal death certificate could be issued, sometimes has to carry out an inquest to determine the cause of the death, because the death didn't take place in a hospital setting where there are clear records of what happened, okay? So, anyway, I have been doing this job, this work now, for a long time, alright? I mean, I was called to the bar of England and Wales, how many years ago now? It's over 20 years, okay? It's over 20 years. It was in 2001, alright? And one of my main clients, who I frequently represent, are local authorities, okay? And local authorities are councils, local councils in the UK, alright? And they are responsible for what we would call protection of adults, protection of children. It's called safeguarding. Anyway, I'm in this 2-day inquest concerning a gentleman, 71 years of age. He was in a care home and he passed away as a result of choking on food that he really shouldn't have been eating, okay? Anyway, the problem with the inquest, unfortunately, for 2 of the staff at the care home, is that they were found, 2 members of the staff were found to have been telling lies about the circumstances of how or if the emergency procedures in circumstances where one of the residents is choking were actually followed, or how they were followed, whether they were followed properly, okay? And in general terms, overall, how the management of the care home dealt with the whole situation, including what we would call a a review of what happened on the day to see what lessons could be learned. Now, I've been doing this job for a long time, and I've been in a lot of inquests for the local authority, and frequently care home staff, especially, and it's most unfortunate, especially care home staff who weren't born in the UK, let me just put it that way, alright? Staff who weren't born in the UK, right, but who come to the UK to work, or they've settled here for any other reasons, and they end up, you know, practicing as nurses or nursing assistants, support staff. Frequently, what I have picked up is that their evidence can be very unreliable when it comes to exactly what happened when this patient or resident in their care has, you know, been in an accident or sudden change of health and an emergency is involved, and the person unfortunately passes away. Now, there's no doubt about it that in this particular case, without going into details, because obviously the inquest is just finished today, so I can't give specific details about the care home or, you know, the details of the gentleman, although he's passed away now, which means his name is not protected under the data protection legal framework in the UK. Once you pass away, it doesn't apply anymore, okay? So that is another reason why inquest tends to be public. You know, like the outcome of the inquest is made public, you know? So the coroner in this case will she will produce a narrative. She's already given it in the inquest at the end, but it will be published, you know, after she has had some further information that she has requested from the care home, and also from not my local authority who I represented today, but another local authority who were involved in safeguarding, in the investigation of the safeguarding. There's some information she wants from them as well. Further information, shall I put it that way? So, I mean, I think I'm probably going to have to do another YouTube channel, actually, because the more I think about this, perhaps it's a lack of education and understanding and awareness of actually what the professional duties are when you're working with vulnerable adults, vulnerable children who have high level of needs, and the importance of being able to implement emergency processes, you know, the importance of thereafter record keeping, the importance of being able to be giving evidence that is based on truth of what you actually did, truth of what you actually saw, okay, and sticking to it as well, sticking to that truthful evidence. So the nuts and bolts is that, unfortunately for these two of the care home nurses, there were nurses in this case, all right, which means that they are regulated under the Nursing and Midwifery Council. Not all their evidence was believed by the coroner. There were so many inconsistencies. I mean, I just sat there in awe. Well, not really in awe, because I'm used to this now. But just reflecting on how I've gotten to the point in my career where you've just witnessed this too many times, you know. and you see the distress. That you see the distress firsthand of the families, not so much about the accident, but about the fact that they know staff aren't telling the truth about what happened, and all they want is the truth. This is their relation, their father, someone's brother, someone's uncle, someone's son. You know, in a situation where this man would still be alive, but for this accident, which didn't need to happen. No, it wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional, but it was a case where this man's death could have been avoided completely if people were doing their jobs, unfortunately. Okay? Now, the first situation that seemed to me that went wrong, and that was picked up, although it didn't exactly cause the death directly. Obviously, that was the choking, all right, of the food, is what the medical evidence was. But the fact is that this particular gentleman, he was in the care home because he couldn't be cared for by his family anymore, because he started suffering advanced Alzheimer's, all right? So he had a very loving family, but Alzheimer's, when it's in the advanced stage, it's very difficult for family members to take care of a loved one. So they you know, had placed him in the care, or placed him in a residential care home, and there was a plan, a clear plan. One of the problems that he had, one of the physical problems he had, connected to his speech. Excuse me, guys, I've got a bit of a runny nose. Connected to his speech, okay, and his Alzheimer's, was that he was a high risk of choking on food, because how do they say it? He couldn't swallow his food properly anymore, basically. All right, and he would, try to eat too much in one go. So he would literally stuff food into his mouth. All right. So this meant he needed to be supervised very carefully when he was eating meals, and also what he ate needed to be food that was very easily digestible, and food that, if he did happen to stuff his mouth with too much and he couldn't be, and someone couldn't catch his arm in time, that it was soft enough that it wouldn't actually lead to him choking. He might cough, but wouldn't choke. So, but anyway, what do we find out? We find out that, one, it seems as if, even though on the morning when this happened, it was around breakfast, it was his breakfast time, he somehow managed to get to the breakfast trolley, even though he had been given his breakfast, which was a breakfast that was designed, or it was a menu put together specifically to ensure that what he ate wouldn't choke him. So there were two issues: that he'd been given his breakfast, and that he should have had someone with him whilst he was eating his breakfast. Okay, and the latter didn't happen. So what happened was, he got up, made his way somehow to the food trolley, and started eating food that he wasn't supposed to eat, that wasn't for him. He managed to grab some food that wasn't food he could actually eat, and then started choking after, gobbling down the food. And then this is where the emergency procedure kicked in. And there were so many different versions of what actually happened between the care staff who were called to implement the emergency procedure and the ambulance service who arrived having been called. You know, there was inconsistencies between the stories, and the clear pathway or the clear facts were that 2 members of the care home staff were actually not telling the truth, because not only had they changed their stories from the witness statements they did, but theirs was the only inconsistent evidence between all those who had been on site during this critical time. It was also inconsistent with what was said by the member of staff at the care home who made the phone call to the ambulance service, because we had to listen to the recording, right? Very upsetting for the family. And to make matters worse, this 2-day inquest was actually a rerun, because we had this inquest before, but because of an error, let me put it that way, on the side of the counsel, what we call barristers when they're appearing in court, we call them, when they're appearing in a court or an inquest, we normally call them counsel. So counsel representing the care home raised an issue after a witness had been released in the first inquest, okay? Raised an issue that essentially disputed factual evidence between 2 witnesses actually who had been released. So what had happened as a consequence, we had to have a rerun. The coroner decided that one of the witnesses whose evidence was being disputed was the ambulance service, okay? And at that time, the ambulance service weren't what we would call a interested party in the inquest, so they weren't represented. So because of the implications, obviously, the coroner has to decide that evidence needs to be given again, and also both witnesses need the opportunity to be able to be represented fairly in the inquest. So it was relisted before a different coroner for 2 days, which was yesterday and today. So lying, guys, in situations where someone's life has been lost, where no one's going to blame you, because it was very clear, and these professional staff are told very clearly, an inquest is not about blame, it's about making sure that the family has an accurate understanding, as much as it's possible to do so, and that the records reflect properly, as much as it's possible to do so, the circumstances surrounding the death, and also where there are external agencies involved who have a duty of care to members of the public, whether there is anything that they could have done or could do for the future, rather, that will avoid a repeat of a death in similar circumstances. So it's about learning lessons, but people can't learn lessons if people aren't telling the truth and it makes the coroner's job very difficult, and it leads the family not being able to really know what happened. It's very unfair, all right? So if you're ever being asked to give evidence in a situation where there is no liability to you, you can help somebody else know what exactly happened to someone else who they care about dearly, right? You can help the system improve, the agencies involved. You want to help them learn lessons. Then as a professional or as a member of staff, if you are giving evidence in a situation like this, you need to be honest and tell the truth. Now, I completely understand, as did the coroner and all counsel who practice in Inquest, we understand that people get nervous. You know, people get nervous, people get worried. But what you need to do in a situation like that is you need to speak to your lawyer and be honest about how you feel about giving that evidence, all right? So that you can be given all the assurance you need, okay? When you go into these professions or careers, vocations, you know, you have to confront any personal issues you have around blame, guilt, shame, inadequacies that you might feel personally may affect your role at some point, you know? Because generally speaking, that tends to be the problem why people end up not wanting to tell the truth when they really need to. It's to do with, you know, their own feelings about whether, you know, they might feel they're going to get in trouble, they're going to lose their job, they're going to lose their profession. Because the reality is, you can't beat the system, right? The coroner will know. There's a skill. I mean, lawyers, judges, coroners, you know, there is a skill to advocacy and judging, all right? There's a skill. We learn specific skills. We learn to read body language. We learn to identify inconsistent evidence. A well-prepared counsel and a well-prepared judge, right, or coroner, you are not going to cover up anything at all, believe me, yes? And so unfortunately for these two members of staff, they are going to be referred to the Nursing and Midwifery Council, okay, based on the findings that they were found to be not helpful and deliberately withholding the truth. Although the coroner accepts there was no ill intention towards the gentleman who passed away, and it was an accident, nevertheless, professional practice thereafter it's been less than satisfactory by far, and it has picked up on professional failures on the day, you know. So that's really all I wanted to say, because I felt a bit frustrated today about the lying that took place, because it was just so unnecessary. And it has now led to the family feeling extremely, extremely let down even more you know, even more. And that's what they expressed today at the end. So chances are eventually these two members of staff have let themselves down big time. Not only have they let the family down, the system down, the profession down, but they've let themselves down, because they're probably going to get referred. They're probably, because of the findings of a coroner, are going to be found as having professional misconduct in their role, and that will have consequences for their career. That should never ever have been an issue. Shouldn't have been an issue. It should never have been an issue. But anyway, wherever you are, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or a good night, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.